The secret to this is again, getting a little bit more simple. Don't say, hey, this is what I do for people. Hey, Sales Ascender, I hope you're doing awesome today. I am doing really well. I got on fire yesterday. I had some really amazing connection calls with some more people in our community. And I just love hearing some of these stories. The people that we're talking to that we've invited into our inner circle are truly dynamic. They're truly profoundly different. Like, we are selectively finding some of the coolest and greatest candidates and people, or not candidates, I mean, obviously members of our inner circle. And it's just been really, really fun having the opportunity to be able to speak with everybody, because literally, like, as you go through this whole journey, I think about, before we get into today's topic, I just wanted to hit on this because I think it's valuable. Like, when you have conversations over and over and over again, and you're continuing to get your message out there and trying to make an impact in people's worlds and lives, so one of the coolest things that happens is you start to hear these wicked success stories. So like, for example, the system we teach, the prospecting system in one of our masterminds, we installed it. A girl named Jamie who started using the system. And here's basically what happened was, all of a sudden, she starts getting into these conversations. She's like, oh, my messaging is off. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. I was like, perfect. So this will help you refine your messaging. Great. So that was a byproduct of the same system. Secondly, it got her a little bit clearer on her future. But here's the cool thing that kind of started to happen with her is, as we got to the kind of the end, and we were talking about virtual assistants and some of the other things, and we gave her some questions when she does interviews and things like that. And she took these questions and actually gave them or shared them with her, I guess, nephew. And he basically, for a job interview in going into the corporate 9-to-5 world, and he literally studied the questions and he came up with like candid responses to these things. And he went in this interview and he crushed it. And he got himself a job. And so Jamie she came back to us. She's like, yo, this was an ancillary benefit of having these conversations, getting to this place where it's like, I know I need to build my team. And then we, gave her kind of some of the keys to be able to grow her team, which he then used for her nephew so that he could actually then get a job. So just a big success story there. Congratulations, Jamie, on that one. And to your nephew, I think that's really phenomenal. So let's get into it. Today's question comes from Ashley M. She says this. She says, Sean, I'm having a bit of trouble with my messaging to convey what I do prior to getting on the sales call. Do you have any suggestions? Yes, of course I do. There's really like kind of 3 suggestions that I would think of saying. Most people, when they get into this conversation and they're just sitting right there, say too much. See how I paused there for a second? That little moment of silence is very powerful. Could be used very easily in any sort of selling conversation or opportunity or situation. And so the first piece is less is more, right? If you feel like you're all over the place with your messaging, you don't quite know how to convey your offers and the things that you're doing, that's the best time to start prospecting activity. Because if you start the prospecting activity and you get into these conversations and you test something and it doesn't work, well, then we know we need to do a little bit of revision refining. Maybe you're saying too much. That's the first thing to say. When someone says, hey, what do you do? Can you say it in one single sentence? If you can't, we need to go back to the drawing board and refine what the superpower is and what's the biggest problem that you solve. And the easy way to do this is, again, to kind of keep things simple is the second point. So less is more. Remember that. Using dead space or no space in sales conversations by shutting your mouth, it gives the opportunity for the prospect to actually speak. Because in selling or any conversation that you're out there, one of the things that's very important to remember and know about is the person asking the questions is actually the person in control of any conversation. And it's weird to think about that, because most all sales coaching, training, whatever you want to call it, books, seminars, everybody says you got to get in there and you got to show them yourself. You got to earn their trust with what you're saying. You got to drop your product knowledge. You got to be the expert and just prove it, shove it down. No, that's not how it works, right? How it works is not even talking about your product and understanding that the person that you're speaking with, if they're in the realm of where you want to work and the person you want to work with, like, do they have the problem that you solve? So less is more, keeping things simple. Here's what I mean by keeping things simple is if we refine the message down to, hey, what's the one sentence to the problem that you solve? Hey, I help entrepreneurs that are struggling with, boom, whatever that's going to be. Hey, I help coaches that are frustrated because of boom, whatever that's going to be, right? Hey, I help service-based people who are annoyed that boom is happening. Is this happening in your world? And when you start the conversation like that and you can just drop in there, immediately what it does is you can throw all that like product knowledge, what we call techno-babble, out the window. Because then you can sit there and say, look, this is the problem I solve. How I solve it is irrelevant at this point. I just need to know if you have this problem. Because if you do, guess what? We need to have a really decent and great conversation about why you might possibly have that problem. Because I don't know why you might have that problem, but at the end of the day, if I can figure out the root cause of what that is, I can fix it. And so let me ask you a few questions. You said you're struggling with this. Tell me more. Boom, right into it. And then you just flip the script and all of a sudden you're asking questions. Tell me more. How long has that been a problem? Can you be more specific? Give me an example. What have you tried to do to fix this? Did that work? How much has that cost you to try that? How do you feel about that? I mean, obviously, spending money on something like this is annoying. Oh, you haven't given up trying to solve this, though, have you? No, I haven't. Okay, perfect. Well, guess what? You're speaking to the person that can actually solve this thing for you and then move forward. And that's literally the fastest and easiest way to break right into a selling conversation if it's teed up as a discovery close call, like 1-2 setup or 1 setup or whatever. Like if the prospect is aware and alert that you are entering into a conversation about selling and sales, then going that direct and that hard could be the fastest way to get to the heart of the impact of what's happening on your prospect with a problem that you solve in like 10 questions or less. Right. And that's literally the secret to this is again, getting a little bit more simple. Don't say, hey, this is what I do for people. Right? Because you're not really doing what they said the selling is. And so the secret is going to be like, hey, I work with these people and I solve this problem. People that are struggling with this problem, that's what I'm really good at. So before we even talk any further, like, is this happening in your world? Because if it's not, like, I mean, let's just have a different conversation. Can I refer you? Can you coach me on how to refer you? Like, let's talk about something else. And that there becomes a very valuable conversation because it's never salesy. Like a lot of people try to get into this messenger and they're hitting these messages out and they're saying all this stuff. Is like the ones that I hate the most. And I'm sure you've had this experience happen to you is when you get dumped all this information. So the other thing is, before I get to my last point, and keeping things simple, have an actual conversation in Messenger. Be like, hey, I'm really impressed with your profile. Like, that's awesome. Message. Thank you so much. What was the thing that drew you to it? Go back and say this. This was the thing that I like about it. And by the way, like, I think you might be a fit for what I do, but I'm curious, do you struggle with this problem in Messenger? They say yes. You say, great. Tell me a little bit more. Great. You've got sufficient amount of pain in the present. Right? That's a secret, pain in the present. And then you say, well, listen, I don't want to continue this through Messenger. Like, I'm an expert at solving that one problem. Here's my link. Let's just jump on a quick call. No charge or nothing. I just want to see if I can help you. And we'll go from there. I want to connect with you. And literally that conversation, just that very simple, keeping it simple, like that works every single time. It's just, hey, I really love your profile. Crack the ice, break the ice. Don't dump. Hey, I'm doing all this other, blah, 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 blah. Do you keep your options open? Do you want to check that? No. Just start the conversation. It's like, hey, I really like your profile. I like this part about it. That's cool. How you doing today? Boom. Great conversation starter. Broke the ice. That's the awkward piece. Once you get through the awkward piece, then it's like, I'm really impressed with what you're doing over here. And I'm curious, you seem like the type of person that I might be able to work with and help. But I'm curious, do you struggle with blank? Because that's what I solve for all these other people. Yes, I do. No, I don't. Whatever, And then you say, great. And if it's yes, then you dig down, tell me a little bit more, get in there a little bit, and then immediately stop it because you have enough pain to generate a conversation on a Zoom. And that's the secret. So like the messaging to convey what you do actually before you get on a sales call is pretty much irrelevant. And the only thing I would say is what you do. Like the secret there is what's the main problem that you solve? Again, and just make it simple. And start that way. And I can assure you that you'll get more calls on your calendar, which is definitely the goal. The last thing I would do is this. Ask an 8-year-old, right? The entire United States, North America market actually has a 3 to 4th grade reading level. Now, if you know that, and you look at someone like, President Obama, he actually had a literacy rate of like 11th to 12th grade that he spoke. And I think that hurt him in the election because he was speaking over people's heads. And so same scenario. An 8-year-old has the same, 3rd to 4th grade reading level. So if you can find an 8-year-old, maybe it's a nephew, a niece, or a cousin, or your son or daughter, and literally say, hey, does this make sense to you, little Johnny? If I was talking with you as a prospect, let me ask, like, hey, do you struggle with this problem? Just say the problem to an 8-year-old and you'd be like, well, no, I don't. And then you say very quickly, like, do you actually understand what that means? Yes, totally. If they say yes, you got it. That's all you need to do. And then you get back into Messenger and start your conversation that way. And that's what I would say would solve this problem 100% for you. I hope that helps. Ashley, this is a great topic. And again, remember the 3 keys. Less is more. Use silent space, right? Let them respond. Ask one question. Wait for one answer. Don't throw like 3 or 4 or 5 or 8 questions. Sometimes you can give 2, maybe 3 if the person, if you feel, is like able to comprehend and respond to all 3. But again, I think one question, one answer is very important. So less is more. Quiet space is good in every conversation. Keep things simple. Figure out what's one problem that you solve. Start the messenger, break the ice, say something nice to them, and then literally just say, hey, I work with a lot of people kind of like you. I'm curious, do you struggle with blank? There's a million ways you could say it. When they say yes, then you say, tell me a little more, dig in a little bit and say, hey, okay, great. Like, this seems like a great conversation that we should have. Let's jump on a Zoom. Here's my schedule link. And that will get you Messenger into sales convo and then on down the rest of the conveyor. So with that said, I love you, Ashley. I hope that answers your question. By the way, if this was valuable for you guys, smash that love button or that thumbs up and share this to somebody that could actually get some value out of it, because I think it's really powerful. So with that said, last thing I'll also ask for is if you have any other sales questions, just drop them in a comment below. I think that will be valuable for you. And look, we even got faithful Facebook users in the house. Exciting day today. Have a couple of good calls. That makes me excited. Congratulations, faithful Facebook user. Excited. If you want your name to appear, there should be some instructions on the StreamYard link that you can click, and then your name will appear every time. And it's like 2 clicks. It's pretty simple. So that said, I love you. Happy Wednesday, and I'll see you tomorrow.